Welcome to the future of real estate. I'm Daryl Baskin, and the I don't know if I have a guest or a host with me, Kirsten Ulrich. She is my COO, my business coach, life coach, and it's funny, Kirsten. I was talking to a friend of mine who doesn't live in Tulsa, and he's a fellow realtor, and I said, "Hey guys, give me feedback on the this newer format, which is more podcast related rather than what I used to do was the terrestrial signal, and it was a regular radio program." And he said, "Well, you didn't let your guest talk much." I said, "Oh, that was Kirsten. She was kind of supposed to just make me talk more. So I guess she did a good job, but it wasn't quite clear." So anyway, Kirsten, you want to introduce me?
Oh, absolutely. So, first of all, welcome to the show. And Daryl Baskin, the voice of real estate. And today we're going to talk about preparing for the busy season. I know this is your favorite topic.
It is, but I'm also a contrarian.
Yeah.
And um, I had to accept at one point in my life, I kept having these cycles of I would like think of something new and I would put it out there and everybody would hate it and say it's dumb. And then 5 or 10 years later, they were doing it. And then I had my feelings hurt. I told my kids yesterday I was all butt hurt because, of something like that. And so it's like I just kind of had to figure it out. Being a
Yeah.
contrarian, you see things in a different way. And so you asked me this question about, well, let's talk about the busy season. And I said, okay, well, what is the busy season? And you said, well, you're the expert. And I'm like, that gets me right to my point, which is we're all such sheep and we follow this. I don't know, it just becomes common knowledge. And then it's so common,
With
it's
all
not
the
even,
news,
but
whatever we hear.
and we think that's the way it's supposed to be. And the,
Yeah.
the fact is, there's a busy season for the busy season differs. And sure, yeah, spring, more people come out, the weather's better, and but all of that varies with interest rate. Like COVID, we had the busiest year during those COVID eras. When there's an election, that affects it. So every 4 years,
Hmm.
we've got an election issue. Interest rates caused a really slow December and
Yeah.
a slow start to this year. But now that
And
interest
then
rates,
today, we
yeah,
got
they've
the
gone
news.
back up again.
They've gone back up.
But guess what? At some point, people decide, well, I guess I have to have a place to live anyway. So it doesn't really matter what the interest rates are. I need to figure something out. I can't wait 5 years for the interest rates to come
So,
back
quick
down.
question for you, Daryl. In your background, in all the years that you've been doing this, what's the highest interest rate that you had to work around?
So the work around was a 17% interest rate, as I recall.
17%.
Now they weren't that high for while I was selling, but someone I was selling a house for. And this is why when people say, "Oh, the interest rates are too high," I'm like, "Really? It's seven."
It's all
Uh,
relative, right?
it is. And when I sold their house, and I don't know how they ended up with the 17%, but I will tell you that every month they made a house payment, their interest rate or their loan
Mortgage
balance
payment.
was
Hmm.
higher. So they make a mortgage payment every month, and each month their mortgage payment or their mortgage amount, their loan is going up. That's called a negative amortization. We haven't seen those anymore. But
Hmm.
imagine what a depressing way to live, and that's just how you had. And so they
Well,
ended
your
up
mindset was though I own my own home. So it's
right.
really not depressing, right? It's I own my own home and I'm making an investment for my future.
Well, back then I
That's how
felt
we
it was
justify
depressing,
it.
but I sold these people a house, and they were paying less money in their new house the new house was twice its size. And I'm so thankful for that my first few years of being in the business
Sure.
because it helped me understand the power of money. When you are buying a house, you're not just buying a house, you are buying money at the same time, unless you're paying cash. And that's a whole different way to look at things. Still time value of money. But it just really opened my eyes to the fluctuations, why those people made that decision at that time, which was very good reasoning. They needed a home to live in. If they had
Right.
waited 5 or 10 years, their kids would have been out of school. They wouldn't have had a pool, had a need for a pool. So you just have to make decisions and enjoy life. And
Well, and their home is appreciating every year. It's an appreciating asset in most
Well,
cases if they're
but
maintaining it.
yeah, but I'm going to back off on that because I started when the oil crash. I was helping
Oh,
my dad in the middle of the oil crash. We moved here and real estate was plummeting. We had over 8,000. I went back in the multiple listing system and looked during that time. We had over
sure.
8,000 homes on the market. Well, today I think we've only got like 1,800.
Yeah.
So we've had all this construction and building in the area, and yet we still have less houses. HUD had its own newspaper selling their homes, so that's how bad it was. And so your home value definitely depreciated during that time. But over the long haul, and that's what I talk about so often, is real estate is, yeah, you can kind of play it like the stock market or like the lottery and hope you win in the short term. But really, real estate is better long term, or it's always best to have your long term plan. And if you make a killing short term, like you're flipping or something like that, that's great. But
Right.
that shouldn't be your overall plan, because really we're buying it. I'm speaking primarily now to homeowners. You're
Right.
buying it to live in. It needs to function for your family. And sure, you want that to be a good investment, but you're also still paying to live there, so you want to enjoy it and have a good lifestyle at the same time.
So that brings me to my first point. And since we're talking about buyers, let's just talk about home buying. So how, if we're, today I listened to the news, the interest rates have gone up. I'm, in a situation where I'm having to relocate or I'm having to move. I'm moving, right? I have got to buy a house. What should I be thinking about right now? What should I be, planning for in this market right now?
So I see this happen all the time, and I'm going to do my best to explain it. It's almost like I need a interactive chart or something. But
Okay.
um, people, you hear something on the news, and the news is what is maybe current today, but by the time you hear it and you take action,
Right.
you're it's too late. And it's so difficult, I find, as a salesperson. I'm sitting here talking to somebody and I'm trying to help them see the value of some future event or current, but they don't feel they're afraid to take action because their friends haven't done it yet. And they only feel comfortable doing it when their friends are doing it. Well, guess what? When your
When
friends
it's
are
the
doing it,
lemming effect, right? We're all going to
and
run over the cliff together.
correct, correct. And let me go back. I was talking about the HUD had its own newspaper
Hmm.
for so long. HUDs were, and this is the foreclosures that are sold through HUDs. Uh,
Right.
for such a long period of time, they were a bad deal, and then they became a really good deal. And by the time people caught on that they were now a good deal, people started overpaying for HUD homes. This was back in the like 90s. They were paying for more for HUD homes than they could get down the street. Little grandma's house who had taken extremely good care of the house. They would they would pay more for a HUD home that had been foreclosed and beat to heck because people couldn't afford to keep it. Like what's happening there? That's the lemming effect. It's like we're just following
Mhm.
because guess what? Our friend, someone in our social group, and then everybody in the social group nodded their head and said, "Oh, HUDs are a great deal." Oh my goodness,
Or
you can't save
some,
yourself.
I don't like the term real estate salesperson.
And that's why I
One
put
of the
it.
things I really appreciate about our team is trusted advisor, consultant.
Yeah,
Really, so, but they're listening to salespeople sell them a concept,
yeah.
right?
So you have to look at what is the logic and the motivation behind it.
Hmm.
And when you put everything out on the table and it becomes a very transparent process, you can start to look at logic. We make decisions. Hey, we all do. I will raise my hand. I make emotional decisions. Now, if I take that emotion and I say, okay, what kind of logic can I apply to this emotion to justify it? It's okay to rationalize or justify your
Hmm.
decision, but just make sure, is it justifiable? And if not, then you need to step back and say, okay, I'm not going to do that just because my friend said to or because grandpa said to. By the way, I love family participation, but sometimes family did it 10, 20, 30 years ago. Well, guess what? We've got all kinds of new laws. We've got different construction styles. You have different needs in your life today than what somebody did 15 years ago. So get their
Yep.
input, but evaluate under what circumstances does that input get presented to you. And we need to think on our own. So um, it's kind of a communal decision, very much an individual decision. So look at it that way. Now, I don't
Yeah.
even
So
know
we
what
need
the
to,
question, the
yeah, we
original.
need to take into consideration, though, we need to look at the interest rate. We need to look at our budget, right? We need to look at the homes in the neighborhood, and we also need to look at, maybe look at our requirements. So you mentioned that we have like 1,500 homes out on the MLS right now. Now that could change dramatically in the next 90 days, but
So,
right now we have that many, right? So
but it changes. Go ahead and make your point there, because it changes for everything. I'll tell you why.
sure. And so when we're looking at this, one of the things that we have to, supply and demand, we've got to make sure that we have our requirements, our minimum requirements for a home, and why we're buying that home. And we really need to make sure we've got that down on paper, right? And we're working with that trusted advisor. We're working with our consultant who's saying, okay, here are some homes that fit that criteria. Here's some extra bonuses, right? Or this doesn't fit that criteria. And I think, one of the wisest things I've ever seen is when I was early on in my recruiting career, I had the good fortune of being mentored by this exceptional businessman. And they always had a matrix, and he was in these multifamily properties, and he had a matrix, and they always bought within the matrix.
Hmm.
And I always thought that was brilliant, because even as if I go out and buy a home, I need to have my own matrix of this is what ideal looks like.
There are two sides to that. First of all, when I am working with a homeowner or someone who's going to live in the home, I strongly caution them that, look, you're living in this home, and I want you to think of it as what you're going to enjoy. That I want it to be a good investment for you, but is also creating a lifestyle. And
Hmm.
you're not going to be able to replace the times with your kids that you spend in your backyard, in the pool,
That's
or
right.
in the
Making
game,
memories.
whatever these things are. Now, some of this you may pay extra for, and you're not going to see a return.
Hmm.
You need to be okay with that and realize you're not buying a house just for the investment return, that you're owning a house, you're getting part of that return is coming in the lifestyle that you're enjoying, the fact that you have a fixed payment, that you are solid there, et cetera. So there is some investment side of it, but there's also the emotional side of it that
Right.
you, as a consumer, have to feel comfortable with. What is your threshold? Now, if you only want to buy something for investment return, then you need to be willing to explain to your significant other why there's not enough counter space, or why they're having to live on a busy street, because you wanted a better rental return where you're renting it from yourself.
Exactly. You
You
wanted that
following,
Airbnb.
you're following what I'm saying there. Is that this is about quality of life also.
Yeah.
But now
So
on
Daryl,
the other, go ahead.
so not trying to cut you off or
No,
anything,
I know.
but
You have to cut me off.
you'll go on forever. So sellers, I'm thinking I have to move. So on the same token, what should I be doing right now as I prepare my home for the next 90 days to list it? What's
Get it,
crucial?
get it clean, and I mean detail clean. I'm talking to this wide audience of people, and I don't know how you keep your house, but I'm telling you, if I say clean, one person says,
Baseboards,
"Look, it's
washed,
clean."
no dirt
Well,
on the baseboards.
they say it's clean, and I walk in, and that they mean clean is they picked up their dirty underwear, but they
Yeah,
haven't like washed anything else. Somebody
yeah.
else says, "Oh, my house isn't clean," and I walk in, and I was like, "What do you mean it's not clean?" I say, "Oh, well, I didn't get the top of that frame over
Yeah.
there. It hadn't been dusted in 3 weeks." Or something, everybody's got a different level of cleaning. You need to be really brutally honest with yourself. When is the last time you cleaned your baseboards? When is the last time you vacuumed
Get a
off
professional cleaner.
the
Bottom
return?
line, get a professional cleaner that's used to cleaning for real estate, right?
Right.
Not just cleaning for your home, but it's a full all the way down, deep cleaning, move
That can
out
be
type
expensive.
cleaning.
By the
But
way,
it's worth it. What if you sell your home for $2,000 more, $3,000 more because you make a better impression?
well, I'd say a
Or
lot of
10.
it doesn't even have to come. You can't even measure
Yeah.
this. Are you going, how much more are you going to get for it? I don't know. But I will tell you, in this kind of market where not all homes sell, not all
Hmm.
homes sell. The difference may be between whether or not you sell. So you'll have a big zero to measure because you didn't sell, or you'll have a check coming from closing because you did sell because you cleaned your house.
Okay,
So
so that we're talking interior. What about exterior? Does the landscaping matter? Does it, I mean,
uh,
does the first impressions, right?
do I
Curb
want to get out
appeal.
of the car, you mean? That's what that landscaping matters because
Yeah.
that sets the tone for what people expect when they walk through the door. When's the last time you looked at something and because your expectations were low, you found all the other problems with it? When if your expectations had been high, you subconsciously would have looked past a lot of the other issues. You either had a bad attitude or you had low expectations, whatever. That affected the way you saw something. Real estate's the same way. Curb appeal is important. It
It is.
doesn't have to be perfect or extraordinary. It just
You
needs to
never get a second chance to make a good first impression, and it's the same with your home.
edge your yard, clean your
Yeah,
windows. You know what a difference I've had before and after pictures, and the only difference was with whether the windows were cleaned
yeah.
and they sparkle. No one can really pick it up when they're looking at the pictures, but there's something different about it, and it comes down to those windows being cleaned.
And something else I've noticed with some of our properties that we've listed is that um, if the grout is dirty, get it professionally cleaned. If your carpet is stained and it cannot be, cleaned, we've got great contractors that you can, for minimal investment.
Shout out to my friend Kent at Grout Care of Tulsa. He has been doing that for
Yeah,
years, and they can go in and they can fix that
super
stuff.
reasonable and looks
Sure.
brand new.
Yeah, yeah.
Looks
And
totally restored, brand new,
when
beautiful.
your furniture is moved, when things are moved around, you're going to have these dark spots and these light spots on your grout. Things are just going to be different color, and it's going to be noticeable.
And shower doors, right, is another thing. If you've got water calcium buildup on your shower doors, spend the few $100s to either tear it out or put new ones in. It makes a
New ones,
difference.
new ones, unless you have to get custom ones, new ones aren't really that expensive.
No,
You can find them in pre-made standards, and there's
new
usually a
vanity tops.
yeah,
Only a
yeah.
few $100s, right? There are so many, even like IKEA, there are so many ways to, cost
I go Costco.
effectively. What'd you say?
I go Costco.
Yeah, right.
I like
So
the quality is better.
yeah, exactly. So I think that it's so important just to look at it and say, okay, yes, I've lived with this for a long time because I didn't want to make the investment, but you want to put your best foot forward when you're getting ready to sell your home. You want your yard to look beautiful. I can tell a personal story that when I put my home on the market in Sammamish, Washington, 10, 15 years ago, I went through and I literally resawed my lawn. I went through and did everything. I mean, it was pristine, and I listed that thing $40,000 more than any home that's ever been sold in that neighborhood. And neighbors were coming by and they're like, "You're never going to get that sold. You're never going to get that sold." Within an
Neighbors are
hour,
always
within
adamant.
an hour of the open house, it was sold. So because
Here's what
no, because
I'm telling you. Here's what's happening in the buyer's head.
yeah,
Subconsciously, they are thinking, I do not want to buy your weekend projects or your dirty house. I don't want to
that's
fix it up.
right.
If they're
Right.
willing to do that, they want a big discount.
Especially if you've got it's unclean, right? So, and also the other thing is, and here's a really helpful tip. I have mold allergies, and so I would always like spray around my window sills. I had blinds with bleach to get that. Make sure you're dealing with if you have mold, and especially in our climate, um, you know, be
And
very proactive.
there are a lot of non-bleaching
Hmm.
things that you can use to kill that. Look up, just Google a good mold cleaners. By the way, not all mold is bad. I've had uh, like national experts on
Yeah.
this program, and we've talked about the best self mold remediation kind of things, like not having to go like full bore. And he said most mold is just a simple moisture problem, and use the proper cleaners on it.
Topical
Have it
product.
tested.
Yeah.
When you see mold, that doesn't mean it's bad. It's the Stachybotrys that's a
Yeah.
problem. You can have an expert look at it, but don't freak out over
No, just deal
trailer
with
mold.
it, right? The other thing I think is when we talk about landscaping is your trees. Make sure you're keeping up with your trees. Watch for insects, right? Start treating that stuff now if you have them, right? Don't wait until you list your home to put out baits and these
Yeah,
different
$250 worth of prevention right now will save you $5,000 worth of tree removal, or that tree getting sick and falling on your house. I've had a couple of those happen. They
yeah.
fortunately didn't hit the house, but that damage, even on fences, can get very expensive. So
Sure. And then roofs. Seattle's a little bit different than the Tulsa market. We used to always have a 5-year roof certification, but I think it's well worth getting your roof inspected if it's an older roof, or even having a pre-inspection done
so here's
prior to
what
listing.
happens. Here's what happens. There's so much to discuss around roofs.
Yeah.
Your your insurance company, your insurance company may look at it and say, "Oh, it looks fine." It may be fine for them because guess what? You're still paying the policy. They've got
Hmm.
all the risk, and they're going to continue insuring it as long as you pay the policy.
Yeah.
The next guy may come along, and a roofer may look at it and say, and most roofers know pretty it's pretty well defined what an insurance company will pay. So a good quality roofer, reputable roofer can usually tell you. We do have through the process, we have a roofer go out and inspect a property ahead of time to see if it looks like we might have a problem. You don't
That's part of our
necessarily
consulting services,
part of it,
right?
yes,
Yeah.
because guess what? Part of the not part of the whole issue with the let me hold on a second.
Smack
I'm,
that firefly.
we're keeping fireflies out of our meeting because we started a little soon, and so fireflies joined late. But guess what? Uh, Go-to meeting is asking me, do I want to excuse fireflies from the meeting? That's funny.
There you go.
That's really
Right.
funny. What a nice way to kick them out.
Right.
So,
So
um,
roofing, having
so
the
we're,
roofer go out.
this is when you hire a real estate professional to sell your home, what you're hiring is a manager of a process. That real estate agent is not going to be able to control everything that happens. They're going to give you advice and suggestions. You need to comply and cooperate
Hmm.
if you want to get the benefit of that. So you need to have somebody who's competent and knows what they're doing, but you also have to cooperate. Everybody else who's involved, the appraiser, the inspectors,
Right.
they all have their own input. Well, it's my job as a realtor to make sure you're having the best experience I can create to get to
Right.
closing. The way I create that experience is by helping avoid surprises. Look, let's get all this out on the table. If it looks like we might have a roofing problem, wouldn't we be better to negotiate based on putting on a new roof and get a higher price than to negotiate on an old roof, find out that it's going to need a new roof, and guess what the buyer's going to say in the process of that negotiation? Well, I'm not paying more for a roof that doesn't leak. So you're stuck putting on a new roof at a price that was negotiated with an old roof. Who got the short end of that stick? I'll tell you, I've been through that many, many times, and I want to protect your interest. I want to have a quicker sale because we've also got something better to market. And when we get to the closing table, you don't have surprises. That's one issue. The other is with the insurance companies, just because you have insurance today doesn't mean a new insurance company or even the exact same insurance company that you have is going to re-underwrite that roof. Because as soon as they have an opportunity to get out from under that risk and they say, oh, you've got an 18-year-old roof. Thanks. We've been insuring it for you. You've got cash value. But for the next guy, because we're not on the hook for that, we're going to change the price, we're going to change the coverage. So as a home seller, you need to realize there are multiple ways that your roof is going to be evaluated, and a good real estate expert, somebody who knows what they're doing and has had those experiences of how they can how
A
they can
consultant, a true veteran, right?
they'll strategize through that process. So listen to them. Don't shut them down and say, "Oh no, I've got a new roof because I had my roofer or I had my insurance company, whatever." That may not matter. There may be a whole lot more to that process than what you think.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other thing I think, just to kind of tie things all together is you're going to have a seller disclosure inside your listing agreement, and it's important. Let's talk a little bit about the importance of knowing what's going on in your house.
So the seller's disclosure is a mandated form in Oklahoma. It's state law that be attached to a real estate contract when a real estate professional is involved. And welcome, Brooke.
Hey, Brooke.
Hey, how are you guys?
Great.
Good.
This is our lender, Brooke, who has joined us. Yeah, this is my lender. This is so much fun. Part of it. But I invited Brooke. I just forgot to write down what you were going to be talking about. So in this process of the seller disclosure, the buyer's going to look over this, and
Mhm.
all of those issues are going to come up. Now, I've had people lie on a seller's disclosure. I've had
What
people,
happens? What happens 6 months down the road when they
oh,
lied on it?
what happens is the buyer of the house that you just sold, you're the liar, okay? The buyer of the house that you just sold, and you said, "Oh no, I've never had any trouble with the septic." They have a septic backup. They call the septic company, and the septic company um, comes out, the truck's there. The neighbor comes over and said, "Oh, you had to call the septic company out again." It's a different septic company, by the way, because you didn't know who the other was. But the neighbor says, "Yeah, Bob, he had that septic pumped like 6 times. They kept telling him that he needed to put in some more lateral lines, and his lateral lines were clogged. I don't know why he never did it." And then guess what? You're calling your attorney next and
That's
saying,
right.
"Look, I was lied to, and nobody told
Mhm.
me that this was ever an issue." And the septic tank company that was out there, you find out who it is, and they're providing records, and they were there 6 times. But on the disclosure, it says, "Have you ever had any backup or what
Yeah.
problems with septic, whatever?" So that's where it comes to get you really get it out
So
of the
here,
way.
to net that out, it's very important to be honest and truthful on that seller disclosure because there is a legal liability to you as a seller if you don't fill it out correctly.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think back over 30 years, the only lawsuit over disclosure that I've ever been involved in was a seller who lied about water in their ducts. And the way I know they lied is they had painted their ducts. Their ducts had rusted. And upon investigation, and this is how the buyer knew that they lied. This wasn't just an empty accusation.
Right.
Uh, was they pulled it up? Well, then they put a camera down in there. They could see the first part of it had been painted, and when you get further down in there, it hadn't been. And if the seller had just simply said, "Yeah, we've had some water in the ducts," all of that could have been fixed for a small amount of money, probably about $3,000 at the time. But instead, it turned into a full lawsuit, thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Why? Why?
Yeah.
And how much of your
It's
life
better
do you?
better to be honest. And so, hey, Daryl, I just had a thought. So
What?
this morning, we did our agent accelerator meeting, and Brooke spoke
With
on a topic, right? And we do that for our team,
our
and
agents?
in helping them become better specialists and really elevate their life in business and in their personal lives. And so, Brooke talked about something this morning, and so I just like to ask her. And so, just to give you a backdrop, Brooke, so we've been talking about we're about to head into the busy season, and so what do you do to get ready to be a buyer, and what do you do to get ready to be a seller of your home? And so let's talk specifically for a few minutes about what you talked about this morning about the interest rates and pre-approvals. And so if I'm getting ready to or I've already been pre-approved and I'm
hmm
out there looking for a home, can you share a little bit of some insights around that?
Yeah, so this morning we touched on the volatility of the market, and it's really important to remember that rates change every day. Sometimes they change multiple times during the day.
Mhm.
And so that pre-approval is based on that one time that loan officer ran their file, and checked rates.
Right.
So it's really important to have that open line of communication and trust where that loan officer and that borrower can make sure that that pre-approval is updated for the agents that they're working with. Because when you go put an offer in on a home and their DTI is maybe at the max of that program and the rate has shifted maybe a 0.5% or a full percent and they didn't know, that would be a bust for the deal.
And DTI stands for debt to income.
Yes, that is
And
correct.
so this goes back to almost the very first discussion we had, Kirsten.
Yeah.
And that was when you're buying a house, you're buying not only the house, but you're also buying money. And if the price of the money changes in the process of purchasing the house or your shopping process, then that can affect what your payment is, what you qualify for, or whether or not you even want to continue with that particular home. Again, back to the experience, when you have a team of professionals there who are instructing you on what questions to ask, what we need to stop and take a look at, it provides an experience for you when you get to closing instead of all the stress. Remember, what are the two most stressful things that you'll find on just about any stress report? It's getting married and buying or selling a house, right? And
Yeah.
so in addition to the stress already associated with buying a house, you add these other things because you weren't properly coached or prepared. That's when you have a mess. It doesn't have to be that stressful. You can worry about where your toothbrush is and if your sofa is going to arrive on time, and not have to worry about can you afford the payments and what's going to change in the process.
Yeah,
And that's what,
exactly.
so and I do remember now why I said, Brooke, you need to show up. I need to talk to you about this. Is that individual. So we're in a world now where you see all of this clickbait online of click here and get the lowest interest rate. Well,
Yeah.
it's not always that easy, and especially with these online lenders, you have no one to talk to. There's no history of working with them. There's no future business, so they don't care whether it works out great for you or not. They just care that it works out great for them. And there's no one to work with if there's a problem or to answer your specific questions. So the reason we have such a strong partnership with First United Bank Mortgage is I know where they are. I know where to find them on Friday afternoon. I can say, I'm meeting you at happy hour and we're going to work out this problem. So it is about creating that experience for clients and treating them as the human beings that they are and not just some lead that comes in off of an internet system. And listen, folks, that is what's happening today. I've put on Do Not Disturb. By the time I get to mid-afternoon, I will have had 4 or 5 inquiries. Hey, you want to buy these leads from me? And I'm like, no, I am not going to pay for your leads to treat somebody like cattle. I want to work with people that I have a relationship with who know I'm treating them like a human being so that I can create an experience for them that is changing their lives in a positive way. So
Well,
you need the same from your lender.
and I think one of the things that I think is really attractive about First United is that First United has their own servicing portfolio,
I'm glad
which
you brought that up.
right, which makes it's a real competitive differentiator. It's really good for the consumer because your local banker has your loan if they haven't sold it off. And so, Brooke, I don't know if you want to elaborate on anything else while we close this out.
Elaborate on
Yes,
the servicing. I think that's so. It sounds so boring. Like, why
it
does anybody?
does, but it's so helpful. You know, I've had clients that I closed 5, 6 years ago that are now shopping insurance. And I told them once upon a time, if you ever switch insurance, you know, there's a certain time frame where it's best if you do it around that time frame. Normally when we pay out, and that's because we don't want to create a shortage in your account. So there's some variables there, and they'll listen to me, and then they'll call me or email me 5, 6 years down the road and say, hey, I'm switching insurance. Can you help me get this situated? They like having that person that they can
Personal
connect.
banker.
Yep. And we're there no matter what. And same with taxes. If you have any issues on your taxes, I have one where Mulkey County did not apply the payments properly, and my borrowers from 3 years ago show their taxes haven't been paid. That's a tax lien issue that then becomes possible
Mhm.
that somebody could buy their property taxes, pay their property taxes, and have ownership of their house in some way. So there's all kinds of things there that we need to try to correct. And I've researched it all, done all of that for servicing, and Okmulgee County is applying the property taxes properly now. So, it's just having that person in your corner
Yeah.
when you have questions.
High
That is
trust.
that is so good because I was online, and I'm not going to drag the company through the mud, but right before we did this call, I was online on the chat for this company where I have an account, and it said, "Oh, we're going to send you over to a live representative." And this happened twice. And like 5 minutes into it, there's no live representative. Hello, hello. I'm getting disconnected one time. The other time, I got so distracted that I think a live representative came on like 10, 15 minutes later, but I
Hmm.
was working on something else. And then I got logged out. Uh, wouldn't it be nice to pick the phone up and say, "Hey, can you help me?" Because
Or can
automation
I
is
come meet you? Or can I come meet you? Right?
Yeah,
And by the way, real life person here, Brooke. Brooke will actually meet you in person. It is
Yeah.
really
I
nice.
will. I think
Yeah.
that is something that a lot of people don't do. They're usually like, here's my link, fill it out online. I won't talk to you until then, and for me, that doesn't matter. If they say, I don't feel comfortable filling this out, that might not work
Mhm.
better for them. Let's do it in person. I'll time block an hour or 2 hours, however much time we need to walk through it step by step.
Yeah.
That
As you
is so
said,
old fashioned.
it's such a stressful thing. So I always tell them, let me internalize the stress for you. Let me have you enjoy the experience, and whatever's stressful, let me take that on for you.
That's
Brooke,
excellent.
First United Bank Mortgage. I am really, it is so funny. I'm like, I just kicked out Fireflies. That's my automated attendant assistant that takes notes. And we started 30 minutes early. I'm so glad we ran over because we would have been gone and you would have shown up and you would have said, "Daryl, you told me to show up." And then you weren't there. And then you did kick in. I just excused Fireflies. And I was
And
like,
there
"Oh,
you show up, and it's like, oh, hi.
Well, I appreciate it. I apologize about my lettuce growing system in the background.
That's okay.
oh yeah, sure." Now that marijuana is legal in
Yeah,
Oklahoma, everybody's
no,
calling it their lettuce growing.
not here, not here. But after cancer, for my own health, my husband was just very passionate about what I'm putting in my body, what I'm doing,
Yeah.
what we're feeding ourselves. So he built this monstrosity behind me, and he had to take it apart and fix a couple things. But normally it's full of lettuce, and that is just enough for our family, and then I can give it to others as well.
So we need to talk because first of all, Kirsten's a health nut. I'm not anywhere close to Kirsten's level. Like we go out for coffee and she says, "No, I brought my own," and she's got this bottle of something green that she's
Yeah.
drinking. But I have a hydroponic system. I had three of
Yeah.
them actually, and they're those tubes. And
Uh-huh.
there is nothing better than, "Oh, hey, it's time for lunch." You go out to the back because I don't do mine indoor anymore. It was too messy for me. I didn't have room for it. But I go out to the back and I'm just cutting off this thing and I'm making a salad, like
Isn't it
fresh grown,
amazing?
organic. I know what's
Yeah.
been put on it. And I can eat, if I've got some kind of insects or whatever, then I can bring them in and invite
Just
them
take
for
them
lunch.
off.
Yeah. But it tastes different. It tastes different. It looks different. It has different color to it. It's just
Yeah.
amazing.
Okay, well, that's going to be our next get together is we're going to trade secrets
Hydroponic
on
stories.
growing lettuce.
Well, I'll bring my
All right.
husband along because he's the mastermind to this. He loves science and figuring things out. So,
Awesome.
Well, this has been a kind of a relaxed version of the future of real estate. I'm glad you joined us. You can always find out more at darylbaskin.com. And Brooke, we can get you connected to Brooke. Brooke, throw out your information so that people can hear it. You can always press replay if you want, but we're going to send you directly to Brooke if you contact us.
okay. Do you want
What's
me to
your?
tell you now?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, my cell phone directly to me is 918-807-7599. And then my email is Brooke, BROOKE .GELEIN at firstunitedbank.com.
Hey,
Awesome.
good to have you, Brooke. All right,
Thank you so
Kirsten,
much.
I'll see you again here later this week.
All right, thanks.
Bye.